What's going on, people? It's your boy Astro, aka the Galaxy Shogun, and I am coming here today with another One Piece discussion. So, I'm here sitting in my room. As you can see, I'm back in my studio, and it is really hot. What they say about summers in Japan, oh my god, is it ever right? It's like 35 degrees, and it's probably close to 1 a.m. here. NAC isn't quite a thing like central air. I'm upstairs in my studio, so my only option for cooling down is a fan. And for the sake of this video, I am not going to have that noise in the background, so we're just going to tough it out. Anyways, the point of this video that I wanted to talk about today is obviously, we're talking about my favorite show, my favorite manga, One Piece, or as the cool kids online are calling it as of late, the last few chapters, especially with the revelation of Roxy Xebec being Blackbeard's father, and possibly even Buggy's father. Nepotism Piece. Nepotism Piece, Nepotism Piece. Let's address the elephant in the room. A lot of people think that One Piece is going in the direction of nepotism. The only people that, are going to have any significance in the story are going to be the offspring of other significant people. I do a little bit of writing, and I went to school for copywriting as well, and I love to do short stories. Eventually I will release like a graphic manga or slash, novel type situation. We'll see how it goes, but, I'm no expert. But however, in my personal opinion, does this hurt the story? The fact that Xebec is in fact Blackbeard's father, which we kind of got a hint of that. Blackbeard's ship is the Saber of Xebec. A lot of people thought that he might have either been inspired or directly related. Possibly Buggy, which there's a video on my channel about, the connections with Blackbeard and Buggy. I think you should check that out if you haven't seen it already. But, Roger is Ace's dad. Dragon is Luffy's dad. Garling is Shamrock and Shanks' dad. I guess technically, based on what Oda said, Queen is Frankie's dad. Judge Vinsmoke is Sanji's dad. Zoro's parents were released in a SBS, which is kind of an L, not gonna lie. And he's related to the sword god, Ryuma. So it's like, are the only people in this series gonna be people connected to other people? Even in, the Rock's Pirates, we see Ochoku, like Wang Z, who looks a lot like Caribou. I'm not gonna be surprised if that ends up being like Caribou and Caribou's parent or something like that, And, just to really answer the question I posed earlier, does it ruin the story for me? No. In my very unprofessional opinion, no, it doesn't. And here are the reasons why. One Piece, from the very beginning, it wasn't necessarily like a Child of Prophecy story. Some could argue that it was, but Luffy didn't seem like extremely like chosen one trope as strong as he was from the beginning. And obviously he got the straw hat. At the beginning we did not quite know that was Roger's hat. Like, we knew that Shanks was significant, but I would argue that at the beginning of the story, it wasn't exactly clear the significance of Shanks or Roger or the hat for that matter. And as the story went on, even with the climax of Wano, we kind of see that kind of coming full circle with this whole prophecy thing. But, from early on, we've kind of seen lineages and them kind of talk that there is some importance with that. Not to say that, again, like, if you're not of this line of D's, you're going to be completely useless, but clearly, like, the will of D had been emphasized very early on in the story, and we don't really know what the connection is, if that's a blood connection or just a connection of an ideals. Maybe it stands for Davy Jones, given some of the things that we heard recently, but, though it wasn't as on the nose with like the direct lineage, nepotism, child of prophecy stuff, I think that, One Piece still was creative enough and made other characters also important. In this case now, we find out basically 1100 episodes in that anyone significant in the story is connected to someone from an older generation, like directly from blood. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Morko was like Shiki's kid or like, Whitebeard's kid in actuality or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it really doesn't ruin anything for me, because I think that this story has always kind of implied that it might go in said direction. So the fact that Oda has kind of taken it there, for me, what it really signifies is that people that left their mark in a previous generation still have a way to leave their mark in a new generation. I tend to be a big sucker for this type of thing. Like, let's say, for example, Hitman Reborn, the first Von Gola family and Suna's 10th Von Gola family. I love when connections like that are made. In that case of Hitman Reborn, it's cool because I don't think that, aside from Suna, there is much of a connection with blood, maybe Lambo too, but in One Piece, it's obviously a little bit more on the nose and a little bit more direct with those connections. So, you know, I don't think that it necessarily hurts the story, because the top of the verse need to be the top of the verse for a reason. Like, we see Law and Kid kind of get casted to the side, and we don't really know their lineage. Of course, Law is a D, Kid is Conqueror's Hockey, all that fun stuff, but, you know, the main players are connected to the key players of the past generation. And again, in my very unprofessional opinion, I don't necessarily think that that is a negative thing for the story. So this is kind of more of like an off-the-cusp discussion and something that I was thinking, so sorry if, you know, I kind of went in circles a little bit. If you like this kind of like more raw thought version from me, your boy, of videos, please let me know. But yeah, again, in closing, I think that the fact that everyone's related to someone, it's not a surprise, because at the end of the day, like, nepotism kind of is a real thing, and it's not as if like these people didn't kind of work towards their ideals. Like, Blackbeard is cunning and smart and did a lot of things to get where he is. Same with Luffy. He's fallen, he's gotten up, you know. He could have died many a times, right? It's not like Dragon came to save him every time. It was the Smoker time, and that's basically it, right? Of course, indirectly, Ivankov and the Marineford stuff, like, he helped due to Dragon's clout, which I don't know how Dragon has any clout, because he's a bum in my opinion, but that's another video. And, you know, when we look at Shanks, too, it's interesting because, you know, we don't really know the connection to him and Garling. He was in a chest and Roger found him. Like, for all intents and purposes, he's inherited more stuff from Roger. Like, Roger was his parent. So it just goes to show, though, there are some ties of destiny and the offspring, you know, carrying forth ideals in the next generation. Those ideals are not the same. Those ideals are not always the same. Shanks is certainly not like Garling. Luffy and Dragon, you know, they both embody freedom and they try to push for that, but, you know, not everything's the same. I think the more close connection with, like, father and son and having similar ideals would likely be Blackbeard and Xebec, but aside from that, I don't think that it is being done in a distasteful way. So, again, I'm going to try to keep these videos all under 10 minutes, especially these off-the-cusp, you know, discussions. Don't want to just go in circles here, but let me know your thoughts in the comment. Do you think it's Nepotism Piece now? Does it affect the story for you? Let your boy know in the comments, and look out for more videos. I got a ton coming for you this week. I'm back in Japan, baby. Let's get it. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Peace out, everybody. Have a great day.